quickly. Some prisoners in England and Wales are set to be released after completing 40% of their sentence, under new plans to be announced by the government.
The proposals are aimed at reducing overcrowding. They're similar to those that were being looked at by the Conservative Party and are expected to apply to low-level offenders. Here's more from our senior UK correspondent, Seema Katecha.
Prisons are at bursting point. Staff who work inside some of them have told us they've never seen it this bad, with the growing population constantly putting them under more pressure.
Prisons are full and we are in danger of having to close the doors and not let any new prisoners in. The latest issue, the fact that we are going to exceed the prison capacity that we are building, has been known about, or at least projected, for a matter of years, a couple of years, I would suggest. There has always been a hope that we were able to deliver new build prison capacity in time to enable us to just about cope with the way the prison population was going.
In total, there are 83,380 men in prison in England and Wales. For the system to operate smoothly and effectively, we understand there needs to be a minimum of 1,425 spaces. A senior prison source has told us there are 700 spaces left in male jails. Later today, the new Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood will announce that some inmates on determinate sentences, that's those with a fixed end date, will be released after serving 40% of their sentence to create more room. This won't include serious offenders such as murderers and rapists. She's expected to explain that if prisons were to run out of places, police cells would rapidly fill up, courts would be forced to delay cases, and police unable to arrest dangerous criminals, putting the public at risk from unchecked criminality on our streets. But this is likely to be an unpopular move with some victims of crime, who believe those who break the law should do their time. It could also make some people feel unsafe as more prisoners are released in one go. The strategy also raises questions for the probation service, which is already stretched and will have to monitor those released early on licence, increasing its workload. This is a short-term fix which should free up some cells quickly, but it's not clear what the government will do in the longer term to deal with the overcrowding. This is one of the first big tests for the new Prime Minister just days into his premiership, and how it pans out could be an early mark of success or failure. Seema Katecha, BBC News.
2 years ago, 35-year-old Zara Aleena was murdered as she walked home after a night out. Now, her killer, Jordan McSweeney, had been released from prison on licence just days before. Now, Zara's aunt, Farah, joins us now. Farah, thank you very much for taking time to talk to us on BBC Breakfast. I'll talk to you about what the government is proposing now. But to put into context, in terms of what happened to Zara, McSweeney had been released from prison on the 17th of June, and he'd breached conditions of that licence. There was a decision to recall him just 2 days before he killed Zara. There is an issue in itself, isn't there, of how the system is working in terms of getting on top of the administration, for example.
Yes. What we know about what happened 2 years ago when he was released is that the probation service was not fit to deliver supervision and also even to act when the licence conditions were broken, and to act in a timely way. But even before he was released, there were issues of lack of shared intelligence from prison probation service to community probation service, which resulted in the incorrect assessment. So he was assessed as medium risk. Before that, at one point, he was assessed as low risk. So what we have to remember is risk is dynamic, it changes. So given certain factors, what happens to a person, how they behave, what's happening to them in prison, means that their risk changes if they're taking drugs in prison. If when they're released they start drinking and that's a risk factor for them, they can move from low to high in a matter of days. So he was already high but misassessed because of lack of high quality services, which we still have in probation. And then what also happened was systemic errors within police as well meant that he wasn't picked up in time. So it wasn't just about somebody being on release and not being picked up, but it was consistent failings within the system. So the issue with... Yes, go on, please.
Sorry, it's really interesting because I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of what people are going to be concerned about. So this reduction to 40%, we've had a discussion with the Prison Officers Association and talked about the issue of overcrowding. That is a real problem. But the fact is, it's the assessment, isn't it? What determines, and we've been told that certain, those of certain crimes, high-level crimes, domestic violence will not be let out. But you've brought up the point that actually it's the assessment of those prisoners during that time to determine whether or not they are dangerous. So what do you think about this potential? We're still waiting for the announcement from government, the potential for reducing the release time from 50% to 40% of the sentencing?
Look, I think exactly the same as Prime Minister Keir Starmer thought when Rishi Sunak said that he was going to be doing this, his government was going to be doing this in 2023. And Keir Starmer at that point, leader of the opposition, said to Prime Minister Sunak, this could result in domestic violence perpetrators being let back into the community. And he asked the Prime Minister then, what was he going to do to prevent this from happening? We don't have... So this was Keir Starmer's concern then, and I believe it will be on his mind because this was on his mind. But if the probation service has not been operating correctly because of reform, because of screw-ups within the reform that's happened with probation for the last 15 years, because of inadequate funding, because of lack of staffing, probation services is operating at 40% in some areas of staffing. And if the system cannot deal with those people being released into the community, then those people are not going to be supervised adequately. And when perpetrators, even thieves, are not supervised adequately, crime can escalate. It doesn't always escalate, but it can. And then we've got unsupervised people because of a poor probation service in the community, and people become emboldened. Well, I can do what I like if nobody's supervising me. And that's what happened in our situation. There was a man that was emboldened because he was not supervised, he was not assessed, he was constantly allowed to do what he wanted to do. And therein lies a dangerous gamble with the public safety with this move right now.
Farah Naz, aunt of Zara, Aleena, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts and your consideration of this topic with us this morning on Breakfast. Thank you.
Thank you.